Shen Yu's Changchun Film Festival appearance is officially over, and she actually did much more than walk a red carpet. Because while those beautiful floral gown photos were taking over Chinese social media, Shen Yu was also stepping onto the opening night stage, helping reveal the Golden Deer shortlist, talking about the kind of stories she wants to bring to the screen, and giving fans a fresh update about Be With Me. And somehow, in between all of that, fans gave her a new nickname, Oil Painting Princess. But perhaps the most interesting thing Shen Yu said in Changchun wasn't about the event. She was asked about what matters to her in a script, and her answer was essentially interesting. So, let's go through what Shen Yu actually did during her Changchun Film Festival appearance, because there was more happening behind those photographs than you might think. Welcome back to Asian Star Spotlight. Here, we don't just talk about Shen Yu's dramas, pairings, possibilities, and co-stars. We explore the stories, the facts, and the bigger picture behind her journey. Now, let's get into it. Let's start with the thing that was almost impossible to miss. The dress. When Shen Yu appeared on the Changchun red carpet, she stepped out in a black floral embroidered gown from Wang Feng's 2026 Fall-Winter collection, with dimensional flowers giving the entire look a very distinctive texture. And the flowers weren't just part of the dress. Her hairstyling continued the floral theme, creating this almost storybook-like effect around her. But then Chinese social media took the look somewhere I don't think anyone could have predicted. People started describing Shen Yu as the girl from an oil painting, and another phrase began circulating, the oil painting princess. Even the hashtag describing her as the girl from an oil painting became part of the online conversation. And honestly, once you see the photographs, you understand why. The black background of the gown made those dimensional flowers stand out, almost like brushstrokes on a canvas. And when she moved, the effect changed. The flowers caught the light, and the fabric moved with her. So instead of looking like a completely static red carpet costume, the whole thing had a kind of visual movement. That's why I think the oil painting comparison worked so well. It wasn't simply, Shen Yu looks pretty. Fans were reacting to the aesthetic of the entire image. And some of the raw phone photos shared by fans were even being called God-tier photographs, or divine pictures, which essentially means iconic photos that were simply too good not to save. Of course, not every single comment was identical. Some people loved the classical, elegant feeling, while others felt the heavy black base and larger skirt weren't necessarily the most flattering choice for her proportions. But overwhelmingly, the conversation was about how striking Shen Yu looked. And the oil painting princess nickname, that one definitely stuck. That Shen Yu wasn't going to spend the entire evening in that floral gown. When it was time for the opening ceremony itself, she changed into a second look, and the atmosphere changed with it. The dramatic floral gown that had created the oil painting princess moment was replaced by a much more polished and structured look, giving Shen Yu a completely different presence on stage. And I actually loved that we got to see both, because the first look was made for the cameras. It was romantic, artistic, and immediately eye-catching. The second look felt more like Shen Yu, the actress, stepping into the room. And that distinction matters, because this is where the night moved from fashion moment to film event. A few hours earlier, everyone was talking about the flowers on her dress. Now, Shen Yu was standing on the festival stage with an actual role to play. And this is where the Changchun story becomes much more interesting. Because Shen Yu wasn't there simply to give everyone another beautiful red carpet moment. She actually had a role inside the opening ceremony. During the ceremony, several film figures participated in revealing the films shortlisted for the Golden Deer Award, and Shen Yu was part of that presentation. The announcement happened in 3 rounds. And in the third round, Shen Yu appeared alongside actress Kong Shan. So rather than saying Shen Yu presented an award, which would be inaccurate, the better way to describe it is this. She joined the ceremony as one of the guests responsible for revealing the films shortlisted for the Golden Deer Award. And suddenly, the evening becomes more than fashion. She wasn't standing outside the event looking in. She was part of the actual ceremony. She had a job to do, took the stage, participated. And then she went back to being the Shen Yu everyone had come to see on the carpet. That combination is what makes this appearance worth following. And mooncakes, I want to pause here for a second, because I genuinely want to know what you noticed first. When you saw Shen Yu at Changchun this year, what caught your attention immediately? Was it the oil painting princess look, the white dress, seeing her on the opening night stage, or simply seeing her back at a major film event? Tell me in the comments. And don't just say everything, pick one. Because I'm curious whether we were all looking at the same thing, or whether different mooncakes noticed completely different details. Now, let's get to something I found even more interesting than the red carpet. During her interview at Changchun, Shen Yu talked about her relationship with the festival itself. She explained that the last time she attended the Changchun Film Festival was in 2018, when she was part of the closing ceremony. This time was different. She was back for the opening ceremony. And Shen Yu said she could feel the anticipation and enthusiasm surrounding the event, and the audience's love for cinema. That little detail is easy to overlook. But I like it because she wasn't simply talking about herself. She was talking about the atmosphere around the festival. The audience, films, the excitement of cinema. And then the conversation moved into something much more personal. Shen Yu was asked what actually matters to her when she chooses a story. And that's when we got that line. It shouldn't just be about one thing. That was the idea behind Shen Yu's answer. And in context, she was talking about the kind of stories she values. Stories with depth, stories with richer subplots, stories that aren't reduced to romance alone. And ultimately, stories that can carry genuine emotion to the screen. Now, I think that is a fascinating thing to hear from Shen Yu, because if you look at the projects that made her so recognizable, romance has obviously been a huge part of the picture. But what Shen Yu seems to be describing here is a desire for something broader. A story can have romance, but perhaps romance shouldn't have to carry the entire emotional weight of the story. There can be family, personal conflict, ambition, friendship, and also there can be characters who are complicated even when they're not falling in love. And that idea, that a story shouldn't just be about one thing, gives us a very different glimpse of Shen Yu. Not Shen Yu, the trending celebrity, or Shen Yu, the red carpet beauty, but Shen Yu, the actress thinking about what she wants a script to actually give an audience. And I think it gives us an idea of why she has been transforming so much lately. Shen Yu wasn't finished giving fans something to talk about, because there was another piece of news waiting inside this Changchun appearance. Shen Yu said Be With Me has wrapped filming. The drama stars Shen Yu as Zhou Yu, an English teacher, alongside Zhang Wanyi. Shen Yu also spoke positively about working with Zhang Wanyi. She described him as a very professional actor and spoke warmly about their experience working together. And I think this is worth highlighting because fans who have been following Shen Yu's recent projects already know how much attention her pairing with Zhang Wanyi has received. So, hearing Shen Yu herself speak positively about his professionalism adds another little layer to the anticipation surrounding the drama. Because now we're not only waiting to see what their chemistry looks like on screen, we're hearing how Shen Yu experienced working with him behind the scenes. And I think it's a wholesome detail coming from Shen Yu herself. And then Changchun gave us another little surprise. Shen Yu also talked about her Chinese promotional song for the SpongeBob movie, Search for SquarePants, and her way of describing film music was actually quite beautiful. She essentially described music as lines with melody. Think about that. A line of dialogue tells you something, but music can carry the emotion underneath that line. It can tell you how a moment feels without the character having to explain everything. And Shen Yu's explanation showed that she wasn't thinking about the song simply as another promotional appearance. She was connecting music back to storytelling, to emotion, to the way a film communicates with an audience. And suddenly, several of the pieces from her Changchun appearance start fitting together. The actress talking about scripts, emotions, music, and the actress participating in a film festival. This wasn't just a celebrity showing up at an event. For a few hours, Shen Yu was very much in film mode. By the following day, the conversation around Shen Yu's appearance had already taken on a life of its own. There were talks about the photographs, the floral gown, the white gown, the hairstyling, the raw fan shot images, the girl from an oil painting, the oil painting princess, and then something else happened. Fans started digging into the archives. Old footage of Shen Yu from 2018, when she attended the Changchun Film Festival's closing ceremony and performed on stage, began resurfacing. And I loved this because it happened organically. Fans were watching Shen Yu in 2026, and suddenly they were pulling out Shen Yu from 2018, not because we asked them to compare the two, and not because this was supposed to be a then and now video. It simply happened because the two moments now existed side by side. And that creates a very tempting question. What exactly do you notice when you put those two versions of Shen Yu together? But we're going to leave that question right there, because that is not today's video. That's the next one. And eventually, the Changchun appearance came to an end. After the red carpet, the opening ceremony, the Golden Deer shortlist reveal, the interviews, fan reactions, and the Be With Me update, Shen Yu's Changchun chapter was finished. And on August 25th, fresh fan-shared photos and videos showed Shen Yu leaving Changchun, with fans confirming that she was heading home to Xiamen. And honestly, I think that's the perfect way to close this story. Because suddenly, the entire trip feels like one complete little journey. She came to Changchun, stepped onto the red carpet. She became the internet's oil painting princess. She took the stage, helped reveal the Golden Deer shortlist. She talked about the stories she wants to tell. She gave fans news about Be With Me and Zhang Wanyi. She even gave us that unexpected little glimpse into how she thinks about music and film. And then, she went home. And maybe that's what I want fans to remember about this appearance. Not just the dress, the photographs, or the trending topics, because underneath all of that, there was actually a very simple story. Shen Yu went to Changchun Film Festival 2026 as an actress and participated, because sometimes it's enough to simply stop and appreciate where Shen Yu is right now. And right now, she has just added another interesting chapter to her journey. But there's one thing we can't completely ignore. 2018, because fans have now brought that footage back into the conversation. And when you look at Shen Yu standing at Changchun in 2018, then look at her standing there again in 2026. The obvious difference isn't just the clothes. And it isn't simply that 8 years have passed. There's something about the way she carries herself now. The confidence, the presence, the woman standing on that stage. And that's the story we're going to unpack next. Shen Yu, 2018 versus 2026. Not just how she looks, but how much can change in 8 years. If you enjoyed following Shen Yu through her Changchun appearance, subscribe to Asian Star Spotlight and stay with us for the next chapter. And if you were one of the fans watching the Changchun photos and videos as they came out, tell me below. Did you see oil painting princess immediately? Or did another moment from her appearance stand out to you more? Because around here, we're not just collecting Shen Yu moments, we're connecting them. And sometimes, when you put those moments together, the bigger story becomes much clearer. Take care, Star Mooncakes, and I'll see you in the next one.